यात्री कृपया ध्यान दें।
So, chalo, let's just jump into the stuff, okay? So
ठीक है.
first thing is like a brief introduction, like who Dhairya is, because I see a very big name on LinkedIn. So like a little bit brief intro to my audience, who Dhairya is.
Well, firstly, I don't think there is anything as such जो मैंने किया है that is a big name. But yes, I just feel that what I've done is I've kind of built like a connect with the audience. I'm a very ordinary, normal electronics and communication engineering graduated this year, and currently working with KPMG as an SAP analyst. Now, that's the basic academic background which I could give you. But as a person, I'm somebody who's over ambitious, over enthusiastic, very hardworking, and I've got some. I don't know. You cannot call them dreams. They are just some. I want to create an impact, and I want to help as many people as possible in my capacity as an individual. And to do that, whatever you see is just a stepping stone towards that. So whether it's on LinkedIn or whatever I'm trying to do with Dhairya Decodes and my personal ventures, it's only to help as many people as possible. At the same time, obviously grow myself, because I feel you grow exponentially while you help others grow along with you, right?
Hmm.
So that's basically me as a person, and I think I'm also somebody who has a very high inclination towards speaking to people, interacting with new people. I love meeting new people, interacting with them, networking. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Cool. Very nice introduction, I would say. And see, you are a student mentor. I think you have career coaching going on. I think something like that. So, what is the main trend you see among students? Where are they misguided? Uh, what have you seen on a very broad level? Of course, we'll be going into the nuances later on, but on a very broad perspective, where are students misguided? Do they lack information? Do they lack proper information? Because I see a huge Niagara of information out there on YouTube. There are a lot of people who are putting out content, but where do you think students lack at this moment?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just my question is answered. Okay. So your question firstly is a very valid question to ask in today's day and age. I think the problem is that students have been misguided in the sense of understanding that this is when your life is set and this is when your life is not set. In the sense, the kind of picture that they are given, that these are a set of steps that you will follow, and this is when you have achieved something in life. That notion itself has been put in or ingrained in their brains in a wrong way, due to which the steps which they take or the path which they follow is not the right one.
Hmm.
What I mean by this is, we are always told that, let's say if someone wants to become a software developer, yeah, he wants to get into a software engineering role. You are providing such amazing content on that via innovative coder stage. What will people tell you? GFG पढ़ लो, कोडिंग ये कर लो, वो कर लो, कोर्सेज कर लो, हो जाएगा, निकल जाएगा, बहुत अच्छी कंपनी मिल जाएगी, 12 लाख का पैकेज तो आराम से मिल जाएगा. What is, I mean, you cannot just say कि ये कर लोगे तो ये हो जाएगा. That's not how life is. They are not getting the proper real time scenario and guidance. I feel that they should be given a plan A, plan B, and plan C, wherein, okay, if this does not work out, this is what you can do, and there will be some amount of effort which they'll have to put in consistently from their side as well. Just relying on a course or on a website does not get you placed. Don't tell me that those individuals just did those courses or just followed some YouTube channel blindly and they did it. There is a lot of hard work which they put in after doing or viewing all of that as well. So that is not told to them. So I think there is the misguidance where it comes in, and not just on technical fields, even in management roles like my roles. It's like, if you just practice aptitude, you will clear the round. What
Hmm.
after that? When you go to there is a technical round even for us management consultants. They don't just take you if you have zero knowledge, right? So do you have some basic knowledge of technology? Because today, whichever field you go in, you cannot do without technology. I am a technology consultant. I'm not coding, but I am working with SAP, which is a technology, and I need to know the nuances of it. So people ignore those things. They are not told कि आपको एक balance maintain करना जरूरी है. And once you do that also, people are just told that only if you have good communication skills, you will get through management roles, which is not true. You need to have good communication skills. At the same time, you need to have a logical reasoning and problem solving skill, because we have those case study rounds. We have to come up with solutions for problems. As a consultant, you find effective solutions for your client. So I just feel that there's a gap between what actually is expected in the industry and what we tell them you need to do. So that gap needs to be bridged rather than
Nice.
anything else.
Uh,
Yeah.
I did a session with a developer from IBM. So she gave me the perspective that, these courses are good. Like, that's also one perspective. But the way you are showing, I think if amalgamated both of them, if a student, combines both of them, I think that's like the Brahmastra for,
Mm.
achieving like a particular
Yeah.
job. And what
Right.
what can be an X factor in a student if he or she, wants to stand out of the crowd? What do you think? Because you are standing out of the crowd, in my opinion, as I think. So what? And you are standing out because of your communication skills. I see you are like overly enthusiastic. When I was on a phone call with you as well, I was like, oh man, who is she? Oh, like, this energy, like.
Yeah.
So what other X factors can be in a student?
See, communication skills obviously help, as you said. वो तो help करता ही है, but I think other than that, what really helps is when you find your passion, and I don't mean it just for saying it, when you actually know what you genuinely like doing, and when you're doing that, it shows on your face. It shows on anybody's face, not just on mine. Because when you do it, like people ask me, I am never tired of doing what I do. You ask me to mentor people even at 2 a.m. in the night, yeah, I need help with my resume. I'll be more than willing, even if I'm exhausted the entire day. At the same time, if you tell me to probably do some client work there, I'm not really sure as enthusiastic I'll be, although I'm good at that as well. What I'm trying to tell you is passion and what you're good at may not be the same things, and they may be the same things for some people. People confuse that what you like and what you're good at have to be the same things. No, you can be an extremely good analyst or a consultant, but that doesn't mean that you love doing it. At the same time, for some people, it intersects. So once you find that, that reflects in your personality in whatever you do. And second thing I feel is that people don't network a lot.
Hmm.
The more you network with people, and people are like, we're students, who will we network with? How can we reach out to leaders with 15 years of experience, etc.? You can. There's no foundation. And they do reply, especially on a platform like LinkedIn. I'm not sure if on any other platform they do or not. Firstly, I don't think you will find a CXO probably on Instagram, but you will find them on LinkedIn. 110%, right? So if you want to actually network with the quality people in your industry, firstly be on LinkedIn and don't just be a passive user, be an active user. Don't scroll through it like Instagram.
Hmm.
Use it actively, engage with other people's content, create content yourself, and then people start seeing you and you become visible. It doesn't happen overnight. And trust me, people come and reach out to you and they talk to you. Today, I speak to people across all levels, all industries and domains. And that's only possible because I've done it over and over again. No one comes to you themselves. That network helps you because today, if you say, I want to talk to somebody, any of my juniors tells me I need to speak to someone who has appeared for the UPSC exam, or I need guidance with how to crack an MBA. You name it, or I want to know how to, let's say, crack a particular company exam. I'll connect you with the right people. That's because I have that network. And I think that takes you a very long way, and that also reflects in the kind of conversations you have with them, and then that reflects in your interviews and as a candidate indirectly.
So I was just asking that you talked about LinkedIn network. So just sending random requests on LinkedIn, is that the way, or like see, we have all heard about sending random requests, sending putting out a lot of content, daily content consistency. All of these things are same for all of these platforms, social media platforms. What's different about LinkedIn, and what you have done to stand out on LinkedIn? Because as you told that you
Hmm.
can currently reach out to anyone on LinkedIn. So how to build that kind of portfolio? I know it doesn't happen overnight, it takes time, but
Hmm.
what is the one factor you would tell, and like what is the strategy behind all of that?
Firstly, you don't have a strategy because when you do things without a strategy is when it works. So I planned to have a strategy, but then I went without a strategy and it worked out as a strategy. That's how I'll put it. So what happened was sending random connections and all of that. Again, when it comes to consistency, consistency doesn't always mean you have to post every day also. Now, your definition of consistency is determined by who you are as an individual. Posting 4 times a week is also consistency, according to me. Although now I've started doing it every day. More than the content that I've put out consistently, what I feel has worked for me is that I have not tried to imitate or emulate someone else. By what I mean exactly is, you will see a lot of people on LinkedIn or even on Instagram who are not trying to bring in their individuality or what they have to offer on the table. Rather, they are trying to be someone else who has already accomplished something in a similar field. The kind of field which I'm trying to get into, mentoring, coaching, education, there are so many people out there. It's fierce. There's a lot of competition. Forget individuals, we've got brands and institutions, right?
Hmm.
There's no way that I can potentially compete with them, nor am I trying to do that. I created my own USP. My unique selling proposition was firstly that I give individual attention to every person. I don't conduct things in batches. You get my full on attention and you get personalized mentoring. Second thing, it's very pocket friendly. I don't rip off your pockets because that's not what I want to do. That's not my major source of income. So when all of that was combined and the content around that was very authentic and real, and I was not trying to be someone else, that's when people relate with you. People relate with you only if you let them know your story and you actually let them know things beneath the surface and you're not trying to be someone else. So I think that has worked for me, other than obviously remaining factors that I was myself. I collaborated with a lot of people. I, took initiatives and tried to help as many people as I could. All of that is there. But at the same time, I feel consistent content which is authentic will help you in the long run rather than I see a lot of people just copy pasting someone else's content, getting credibility for it, getting likes, getting connections also,
Hmm.
but then you don't get those opportunities which last for a long time. All of this works, but it becomes short term then. So if you're looking for a long term thing, build real connections. And I think with the connections that I've built, I've not just connected with them. I try and maintain that relationship wherein I'm always there to help, and it's vice versa. I mean, we're always there to uplift and help each other. That's the kind of relationship I've built with, I guess, most of my followers on LinkedIn. So I think that has helped.
Hmm. Cool. And what is this term SAP analyst? I mean, like, I'm very curious to know about what do you do as a SAP analyst?
Okay. So, firstly, even I used to call it SAP, but it's not SAP, it's SAP. उसको SAP नहीं बोल
Okay,
सकते. This
okay.
is what I've been told at office. You cannot call it SAP, it's SAP. So, it's SAP analyst. So, the basic full form is systems, applications, and products. Okay, which I'm probably sure many people know about. So, it's basically a software or a tool which helps you with streamlining your business processes. Okay, now, under this SAP is a company itself, SAP is a company itself also, and also it is a technology. Okay, two things. The company is different. That company only has, in-house they've built this software and technology. What it does is all the businesses which are there, you must have seen when they're procuring some items or they need any help. So I work on a module under it, which is SAP Ariba. So what it does is it's a cloud tool which is based on the P2P cycle, which is called a procure to pay cycle. Anything that you want as a business, as an individual, let's say today, the need arises. First, a need needs to arise. That I need to order a Dio, let's say, from Amazon. You'll place an order there, right? Then you'll make the payment. You'll get an invoice that your order has been placed. You'll receive it. Similarly, when an organization, let's say, wants to procure a laptop for all the employees, they have to do it from time to time, or they want to procure raw materials for the canteen food. They'll first raise the request that this is what we want. Multiple vendors will have some quotations who will pitch that, we can provide you at this rate, we can provide you at this rate. Company chooses the best quotation according to their needs. Once that is done, you will obviously have a communication and then you will get an invoice, you will make the payment, you will get a remittance receipt. This entire cycle is managed by tools like SAP Ariba, and every business needs streamlining of these invoicing processes and procure to pay processes. So we help them with the technology implementation as SAP analysts. With a team, obviously, you can't do it individually. So that is basically what we do. And huge organizations, startups, everyone kind of needs it. It's
Hmm.
a ERP to be very specific, an enterprise resource planning tool. Oracle is another example. 60% of the market is captured by SAP, 40% by Oracle when it comes to ERPs being implemented.
Got it. And you told about, so that was a really nice answer. I got a complete in-depth knowledge about what is SAP, and you also told that you are a resume specialist or expert, we can say, but like you review resumes of students. So what do you think, how students structure resume? Because see, I hire students for my company as well, and I see a lot of mistakes students do. One mistake is they so on I mainly hire on Internchala, so mainly students put that Google Drive link. So I hate that stuff. Who will open that Google Drive, who will go there and look at your website or project? So and what do you think? Because I think that you might be having a lot of points in mind. So where do students
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
I'll when I firstly I don't just review it for students. I've also reviewed resumes of professionals with 15 to 20 years of experience. Okay, and all across the globe, not just in India. What I feel that it's not lacking. It's just that again they haven't been given the right knowledge, or you cannot blindly trust the internet also with everything. You have to first try and work it out for yourself. Because I've done that trial and error for myself, for my friends, I know what works and what doesn't work for them. So one major problem which I see is the length of the resume. People feel the more content you put out there, the better it is. I used to have a 7-page resume myself in second year, and I laugh at it today because I don't even know what I put there. Like today, if I'm crunching it into one page, I don't know what brilliant work I was doing in second year that I had a 7-page resume. So the basic thing that everything and anything doesn't need to be crammed in a resume. Highlights need to be put in a resume. It's not your bio data. It's just a brief summary. If the recruiter or the interviewer like you want to know more about them, you will contact them and you will ask them questions in the interview. You'll ask them to elaborate. Okay, I really find this internship experience interesting. Can you elaborate a little more on what your role was? You mention only 3 to 4 bullet point main highlights in that role. You don't have to give a full Ram Katha. That's one thing. Second thing is, I feel that I think I don't know 80% of the people don't even know there is something called the ATS, which is an applicant tracking system, which actually scans your resume even before a HR views it, right? And now if you're relying just on a robot which is fed with some algorithm and it parses through your content, you have to look at it with that view only, even if you don't want to. You will have to make it compliant to that system, right? Because it will only go according to the steps. It's not a human being that it will probably change. If this has been fed, this is there, okay, pass. This is not there, reject. 6 seconds it will take. So to make it ATS compliant, firstly, it has to be as neat and clean as possible. You cannot you cannot have timelines. I see a lot of people making very amazing and innovative, great resumes, but that does not work, especially if you're applying for these corporate or government jobs. It works if you're in a creative field, like a designer, a video editor, into interior designing, fashion designing, all of that it works there. Graphic designing, you can go all out and create a colorful, great resume. Here, you can't have infographics, you can't have charts, you can't have images, all of that because it doesn't get scanned by the ATS. It will reject it anyway. So why would you want your resume to be rejected because of that? So this people are not aware of. Second thing is I see that a lot of people don't focus on the right area. The main thing which a recruiter wants to see is your work experience or where you have applied your skills in real time, not your education, not your even I would say not even your extracurriculars. They want to see your work experience. So the first section on your resume where the eye should go, the human eye should go, is the work experience. Post to it, you can focus on your skills and projects. Those are the second and the third most important section. Then you move on to anything else that you want to add. So I don't think education, extracurricular, and the certification section is also not needed. With certificates you've done from Coursera, Udemy, today everyone has done 100 certificates. The recruiter does not want to know. If you've done a legit certification from some institution, amazing foreign university, which has actually added value, please include those certifications. That way you can put thousands of certifications you've done from Coursera, Udemy. So yeah, these are a few pointers which I feel they miss out on and they are misguided because people are told you just include everything, whatever you have done. Again, you have to highlight. I had 20 internships. I cannot put 20 internships in a resume. It will take me so many pages. I filtered it down to only 4, out of which one is my KPMG experience. So only 3 internships out of 20 is what I selected because you need to understand what do you want to display and what is the best that you have done out of so and so. So I put only 4. So you put a maximum of 4 to 5 experiences at the max. So yeah, those are a few pointers you asked.
So I was just going to ask you two questions which you have covered in your answer. That one question was about certificates and certifications. What value do they have in your resume and as your career as well? And the second one was the 20 plus internships and I think 45 plus talks. Yeah. So I was going to ask about that stuff also. So can you just please elaborate about like what is these huge numbers? I haven't seen anyone in your age doing 45 plus talks and 20 plus internships. Like what is this? Just tell me.
Okay. So when I was in my second year, I was kind of lost because the college which I come from, obviously there are many colleges which have a more competitive environment. I was not in an IIT or anything, but at VIT as well, there were a lot of people who were doing a lot. And I totally respect people who love coding, but I did not like it to the gut. I could not do it. I don't know what the reason was, and even today, I know that if I really want to do something, I can do it. But it's just that I didn't want to do it. That was not there only under say. I didn't want to put the effort only to learn or to even practice. So when I understood, okay, now I'm an engineer and in VIT, CS based and IT based company placements are amazing. So
Mm.
you get a lot of opportunities basically. So around, let's say around 700 plus companies come in for such roles. So kahin na kahin to ho hi jata hai. And in a good decent package in a good company. So everyone will run behind that only, and everyone runs behind that only. My parents also wanted me to do the same because you get a very good package, you get a good whatever, everything. But the thing was, I was never drawn towards it. Now, when I understood I'm not drawn towards it, nor was I drawn towards doing a core electronics job, then I had to do something in life. So then I discovered that I could do management. Again, people have a misconception only if you do an MBA can you get into big fours or can you work as a consultant or an analyst. But I was firstly fortunate enough that these companies come in my campus that I cannot deny. Second thing, I was fortunate that there was no one to specifically guide me because I didn't have many seniors who had gone into this domain. I had a lot of seniors who got into IT jobs and great companies like Microsoft, JP Morgan, Schlumberger, etc. But there was no one in this field to guide me. So I had to rely on myself, and that's when I decided I'm in my second year. I've enjoyed my first year of bit of hostel life and engineering. Let me try and explore and understand what do I like doing. That's when I thought that let me do these management based internships. Although I knew I'll face rejections because I had no experience and nothing to show on my resume. That's what happened. I faced about 30 plus rejections. No one was selecting me because I was a second year graduate, undergraduate with no real time experience. But slowly, then I upskilled on myself. I started watching these videos of people who were management consultants. I understood what do you need to do, what skills do you need. Then I used to speak to some people who I got through contacts that what do you actually do, what should I do, some amount of guidance. And then after I upskilled a bit, started getting selected for internships. When all of that happened, I thought I will not do just one domain based internship. I will explore all, at least how many ever I can under management. So the aim was not to get the number. The aim was to get exposure to as many fields as possible. So I did it in sales, I did marketing, content writing, operations, HR, name the fields under management, I did it so that I understand what am I good at and what can I do in life. And accumulating those 20 plus internships experience by the end of third year, I knew that, okay, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, and these could be the potential areas in which I can build a career in. So consulting and analyst roles came at the top forefront. And that's when I decided, let me do this. So when all of that happened, and then when this journey on LinkedIn began, that's when coming to your talk, so when I started becoming visible and started putting content out there about, because not a lot of people even today talk about business analyst roles, data analyst roles. SAP is a very niche field. Not many people talk about it. You'll still find people talking about software development, etc. because it is
Mm.
so widely. Very few people work in this domain. Because of that reason, very few people write about it. So I took advantage of the situation. One of my seniors, Mr. Darshan Patel, he is the head of SAP Mexico. He guided me and he told me the SAP department Mexico, TCS Mexico. He told me that what you should do is Dhairya, that not a lot of people are talking about this. You talk about general content, motivational content, and even tips and tricks about general things. Why don't you become a little more specific and talk about SAP? When he gave me that guidance and when I started putting things out there, that's when I started getting these opportunities from colleges, MBA colleges, although I'm just a graduate, that you come and give talks here. So that's when slowly it built up, and then I've been doing this for quite some while, and now I think it's become a part of my daily routine. Like there's hardly any day where I'm not interacting with someone or meeting someone new. I meet at least 3 to 4 people on a minimum basis every day, even though it's virtual. So yeah, that's how it has been.
Great, great journey. And how's your experience on Instagram?
Okay. So see, I'm very new to, in the sense, I've been on Instagram personally with a private account and I've been there, but I never had to analyze the algorithm or understand what people react to. It was my private account. I never had to think on that level. But when I started with this initiative of Dharya Decodes, and then we decided of coming on Instagram about one month ago, 1 month, 15 days, something like that. Then I thought that if I really want my followers to grow organically, not by buying some followers or running ads, etc., then I will have to think of what's working and what my audience is reacting to. So I started analyzing, seeing the algorithm. Then I saw that reels are working right now the most.
Hmm.
It's the most organic form. You should interact with your audience on stories, put out informational content. Then we then we decided, then me with my team of interns, which I've recently hired, I thought that let's firstly keep adding value. At the same time, what's working for you organically, you should start doing it. So I started pushing reels. So I think that kind of gave, we were stuck at about these 155 followers for about a month, and just in 10 days of putting out reels, it increased to more than double organically. So that's what I tried to just analyze what will work naturally. I'm not looking for some phenomenal numbers, but it should increase. You can't be stagnant, right? Because we are looking at impacting and reaching out to as many people as possible. So that's how Instagram, I think, again, still there's a lot to explore and a lot to do. I think I should learn from you. But yeah, I'm just trying to keep it organic and help out as many people as possible. And it's slowly working out. And then we just recently came on LinkedIn as well. So there as well, we are trying to just because it's all, not all, but I have a workshop specific to LinkedIn which I take. So I thought it was the right decision to come on LinkedIn, because if someone really wants to, enroll themselves for a LinkedIn workshop, I believe they would want to see the page on LinkedIn rather than routing them to Instagram. So being on Instagram is great, but I thought that having a LinkedIn presence was important because I myself individually have a presence there. So the brand should also have it there. So yeah, we are diversifying slowly, and yeah, I'm not in a rush. I just want to take it slow and see how things go.
Great. And one thing I just want to ask you, which is a question meant to ask to you, is how to master communication skills. And I see a lot of confidence, a lot of fluency, when you speak. So and that comes by time, that comes by practice. But still, uh, you know, what can student? There should be a hack, for this as well. Communication skill. I have struggled a lot with communication skills. When I was used to initially make videos, I was used to have teleprompters, by my side, and then I was used to read that and
Reading the
speak. Yeah. So what do you think? How can someone master communication skills? Because this skill is very important when you, let's say, if I'm a YouTube guy, if I'm on Instagram putting out content, even if I'm in job, this is one skill which is, for everyone.
You need it everywhere. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
No matter
how?
what you're doing in life. I mean, even if you're a student, entrepreneur, freelancer, whatever you're doing, communication skills are very important. And I think it is undermined. People feel that it's not a skill that you need. See, if you have the right hard skills and the technical skills, it's amazing. But if you don't have the right soft skills and communication skills to complement it, you won't be able to put across your point, even though you may be the best or you may be acing the game. So I realized this at the same time. See, consistency obviously helps. I've been doing it since the past 4 years, and that's where now when you hear me, it sounds like that. Okay. But what I feel has again worked for me is that I have tried to derive inspiration from people in various forms. In the sense, I used to observe a lot of people who are amazing public speakers and motivational speakers, whether it's Michelle Obama, whether it is, Ranveer Alabadia, whether it is Jay Shetty, whether it is Tony Robbins. All of these people are big names in motivational speaking. So what I used to do is, again, you don't have to copy them. You have to learn from them and then make your own style out of it. Because again, if you're going to try to copy them, you'll get a lot of resources. Listening to podcasts has really helped me a lot because I don't know, for some reason, I'm such an individual. If I listen to stories and I view stories also or videos, I get inspired and I learn a lot via audio and video content as an individual myself personally. So I started listening to a lot of communication based podcasts and these podcasts by these people. And when you listen to them while they're interviewing other people, the way they form their sentences, the vocabulary they use, the tone that they use, everything, you can imbibe a lot from them. And when you take it from about 10 to 15 people with the same skill set but different styles, you kind of understand how you can build your own style. So that worked for me. Second thing is that speaking to people. I was because of maybe my extroverted nature in general, it was easier for me. But when you speak to a lot of people and you interact with a lot of people, again, you take something or the other from them during your conversation or while speaking to them. There is always something to learn. So because I speak to so many people and it's become a part, I genuinely did it on purpose, wherein I was put on some stage, some platform where I had to speak. Practice makes you perfect in whatever you're trying to do. Time and time and time again, if you're speaking in front of 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, or even if you're having conversations with 4 people, even if it's individually, what happens is, even if you don't want to, slowly, your barrier will go down and you won't be shy anymore, or at least you won't have that fear which most of the people have, that people will judge me if I go wrong anywhere. We are human beings. It's not like I am always 100% fluent. I make pronunciation mistakes even till date. Sometimes the sentences, the way I structure them may not be correct, which I realize when I watch an interview. Trust me, it still happens. So, but I learn from it. That when I see it, okay, I did this wrong. Next time, don't do it. So, learning from your mistakes is very important. I've done that, and yes, just observing people and learning from them is the best way, because someone who's already done the same thing, it's the best way to learn it from them rather than starting from the scratch yourself. And I think even Jack Ma says this, that learn from people's mistakes, learn from their mistakes rather than learning from their successes. So that helps.
Great, great answer.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I was in that deep mode, when you talked about podcast, I was also thinking, I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I don't know, I don't have any purpose of listening to podcasts. But
Mhm.
now I realize, my communication skills and how I have built this confidence, that also comes from those podcasts only. Because knowledge is a part, undoubtedly, but you also gain those communication skills as a part from these podcasts.
Yeah.
And that's a really great advice. I don't see a lot of people telling about this podcast thing a lot. Great.
Yeah.
And one last question I have is, any one experience you want to share, from your past, which you think can impact a lot of people, because everyone has some story, and the and there is one moment which you think that can impact a lot of people. So anything from your experience?
Yeah, well, I think when I was around in my second year, there were times when I used to compare myself to other people a lot. Because as I told you, they were overachievers and very smart, great people in my college. What used to happen is, and it's human tendency, when you see people doing so many things, no one is that resistant or has that tolerance power wherein you don't even feel, nothing. There will be a point where you will feel that he or she is doing so much, what am I doing, or what am I going to do with my life? That point comes in your everyone's life, I believe. So at that point, because I had not figured out what I wanted to do, and everyone was following this mad race, सॉफ्टवेयर कोडिंग करेंगे इसी में है, तो भी we'll do coding, we'll learn it, job ले लेंगे, ये ले लेंगे, वो ले लेंगे. So I was like, what am I going to do? And I hadn't done much in the extracurricular domain also till then. But that's when I realized that there is no use comparing myself to others, because they will always have their journey and they will have their accomplishments, and that's totally okay. Rather than feeling sad or feeling envious of anybody else, I should concentrate my efforts on my goals and what I want to do with my life. So the day I started focusing on myself, everything changed for me. I literally, because I never imagined that whatever it is, that small scale of impact and whatever I'm doing today as a 22-year-old girl, I'll ever be able to do it, because I had no idea that just focusing. I'm not saying that you leave the world, don't care about what others are doing. It's good to always know what others are doing. But your main focus or your concern should be on where you are in your journey, how closer you are to your goals and your vision. Once you concentrate all your efforts, then trust me, you don't even have the time to judge or to even know what other people are doing. So when I became so busy in my own hustle, I didn't have time to compare myself to others. And that's when everything started happening and falling in place. I understood what my passion was. I went after it. People came in my mentors came on my journey. They guided me, showed me the right path. I went along it. So all of that happened. So what I feel is two things that you should always believe in yourself, irrespective of what others say. My parents always, obviously, parents will always guide you for the right thing, but still, at the end of the day, it's your career and what you want to do. What you're going to do is going to stay with you for the rest of your life, not your parents. They wanted me to take up CSC. I still don't regret it that I took EC and what I'm doing today because I'm happy doing, and now even they are happy seeing what I'm doing today. So it's good to listen to others, take advice from everybody, but in the end, do what you feel is right, especially with respect to your career. And second thing is that don't compare yourself with others, is what I've learned. Um, Derive inspiration, but always carve your own path because your journey will always be unique. Your journey is unique. I cannot compare it. You cannot compare your journey to mine. We are both in firstly two very different domains. So it's always good to just appreciate people's journeys, but have your own. So I've just stopped comparing, and that really helps. Trust me, it does help, and it helps you grow as a person as well because you learn to cherish other people's accomplishments as well. I was never jealous, but I was very envious at a point, and that never helps. It doesn't help.
Great. Great. And one thing, Dhairya, I've seen a lot about your LinkedIn. I was just scrolling your past posts, and one thing is that I was on a call last day with 20 people on Discord, and one guy came up and he was like, "I'm from tier 4 city and studying in tier 3 college. I don't have a laptop, anything else. What can I do? My life is wasted and stuff." But you know. One thing I see about you is that you have this just one phone, right, recording you, and you are speaking just 1 minute clip, and that clip has around 200 likes and what not, reach and comments. So this is one thing I really appreciate about you, because like, I don't know, you might be having a lot of equipments and stuff, but how simplistic you have, how in a simple manner you have done your LinkedIn, you have grown your LinkedIn. That's really commendable, I think.
Actually, I like to just add on to that. I do that. I actually did that on purpose. Reason being, my sister also used to tell me, and a lot of my friends, that why don't you get, the stand, the holder for your phone, or you get like a good backdrop. All of that I can do. It's not that I can't do it, but I want to keep it raw and unfiltered. That's the thing. Wherever I am, because that's how I am. I don't plan or schedule my content. I take my phone, something comes to my mind, I'll just sit. This is exactly where I sit and make all
Mm.
my videos. I'll just hold my phone. I don't care if it is shaking. It's what I the value what you're speaking matters is what I believe in. Simple. What you're speaking, if it's nonsense, even if you are behind some amazing aesthetic background, no one will listen. As long as you're saying something useful, people don't care about what's on the left, what's on the right, and how you're looking as well, as long as you are providing value. So I believed in that and I just kept going. Like a lot of people told me, get your videos edited, and I have video editors who edit for Instagram as well. They can edit my personal videos also. It's not like I cannot get it done. I don't want that fanciness here, nor do I want to do it for any reason. It's a small 1 to 2 minute message which I want to put across, not some fancy thing which I want to do. And that's why I'll keep it that way.
And also this resonates with what you said earlier, that uh, you have your own style, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's one thing, because I don't see a lot of people on LinkedIn, putting out video content, first of all. Then second thing is that putting it in such a simple way, because people resonate with you a lot
Mm.
when you put it unedited, just like you do what you have done.
Mm.
That's really great,
Yeah.
because I was
Thank
always in a mode that I have a green screen on my back, and I'll surely edit this and put my logo, branding, and all of that stuff. I don't know, I have this in me. That's my
you.
style, right? That's what I
Right.
like. So yeah, that's really great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
And
think everyone should have their own, whatever it's your perception, as I said. What suits you and what brings out your individuality, you do that because that will set you apart.
great. And you have any questions, you can just ask.
Sure. I want to actually just ask you one thing that firstly, how did you come up with this idea of the innovative coder? How did it all begin the journey? And what's your aim with, taking it forward? Like, how do you want to take it even the more further, let's say in the future? What are the plans?
Okay. Well, this can be a very long answer because like I have a lot to tell and I haven't disclosed my story. You won't find Jasneet or Innovative Coder talking about his story anywhere on internet.
Yeah.
Nor I have written it anywhere. But how I started with Innovative Coder is that, my father's company is Innovative Concepts. So I just took out Innovative and I was a coder. I was doing coding. So I put a coder, and that's how the name was I coined the name. And also like Instagram journey has been amazing, super amazing,
Mm.
because I have faced a lot of Instagram bans. I have fought with a lot of people. I was in second year doing stuff, and people hate when you grow. People hate a lot, and on Instagram it's pathetic. Currently not, but when in back in 2018, because it was very easy to grow and not a lot of people know how to grow. You
Mhm.
have to reverse engineer all the algorithms and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, that. And now kind of I have this blog style of content on Instagram. So I have established that with a lot of I took a lot of time, because in
Yeah.
3 years I should have been on 250K 300K by now, but took a lot of break. I think in last December I just left Instagram, and by the end of July I was not putting out any content. So that sort of killed reach as well, but it gave me a lot of time to re-establish myself. I was putting out memes. If I don't think any you know about that, but I was initially putting out memes on Instagram, tech memes,
Mm.
tech related memes, and till 10K I was doing that. But then I revamped my content. you know I sort of started providing value to a lot of people, and that's how Innovative Coder was, going on. And currently, I have a very loyal audience. You see,
Yeah.
people flooding messages of love, and I have this concept of rain of love. If you
Pain
see,
of love.
yeah,
Yeah,
if
I've
you see
seen.
on Instagram,
Yeah.
it's like if any new user comes and he likes all of the posts.
All the posts.
I don't know why people do
Yeah.
that. Like they really do that. They spend 15 to 20 minutes on my Instagram, and they're like, just liking all the posts. So I sort of
Yeah.
call this rain of love, and it just
Yeah.
really helps and support the page as well. Because see, I am not, I monetize my other things. My Instagram is not monetized. In Innovative Coder, I have other Instagram pages as well. I have one which
Right.
is Code Crumb, it's on 30K. Then there is AI Crush, which is on 11K and 11.1K. So I monetize both of them using promotions and other things, affiliate marketing and stuff like that. But this one I do not monetize at all. This is just for value providing. I just I make a post. It takes me 1.5 hour and 2 hours a day. Just make a post and schedule it and do that stuff. Moving forward, what plans I have is I don't want to monetize it, but I think I would be launching a course, sort of what you do for LinkedIn, right? Sort of a 3-day workshop or something like that, because I think I mastered the algorithm. I want to tell to people what you can do. I also have
Right.
some black hat strategies, because it's not always the ethical ways
Always the ethical way.
yeah you
Right.
grow you grow your brand. It's some unethical ways as well, so I think I can provide that as well to people. So maybe that would be a way moving forward. I'm also writing a book on hacking, so it's
Great.
like
Wow.
black hat white hat and basics of hacking. So maybe that can be the way, but books and courses, I don't think that they are a really great way to monetize something. Because see, I'm monetizing myself from by doing client works and freelance and stuff, and I have
Right.
international uh, agencies who give me projects and I build that stuff. So sort of that's settled. I just want to do something extra as well, by putting out content. That's great. I'm growing, but still I want to do something extra on Innovative Coder. So moving forward, maybe that can be the journey. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. And I think you're doing some amazing work, honestly. I was blown away by your page. And I think very few people are doing it that way organically. So honestly, hats off to you. And I'm sure that whatever you're going to venture into is going to be a very, very, super hit kind of show, because I think a lot of people genuinely have got a loyal audience now. That's what happens. When you keep providing value, that trust and credibility increases. And now people genuinely follow you and look up to, okay, what is innovative coder going to put up today at 10 a.m.? What's going to be the next post? So that's what it is. That's what you've built. Yeah.
Just for the reference, I have changed the time because I think 10 a.m. the audience on 10 a.m. is quite active now. So I just want to shift the time to 6 p.m. So I have shifted. This is what I do, experimentation. I don't know if 6 p.m. works or not. Maybe the reach or engagement goes down. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I like to do. I'm not cared about the engagement, reach, and all of that stuff. A lot of people don't put out IGTV videos. I don't know if you have you know this, but a lot of people don't put out IGTV because that decreases their attention, because long format doesn't work on Instagram. That's why reels work, because this is a short short attention span thing and all of that stuff. So yeah,
exactly.
And you have already decoded that reels thing, so congratulations on that. That's really
I'm also I'm just experimenting. We put IGTVs, we put carousels, we put normal posts, everything. As you said, I like experimenting. I don't care if the reach is low, what is low. We have no particular, as such timings. Also, we just put it during the evening. That's when I'm free. And then we see how it goes. If it works, it works. It doesn't, because that's how we learn.
Exactly. And what are your plans for Dhairya Decodes? In future, what do you want to do with this? Of course, like you are having a lot of things, mentorships and a lot of, but yeah, moving forward.
I think I just want to make this a go-to platform for students and professionals, wherein if they're seeking any career guidance or help with respect to interviews, with respect to resume building, etc., whatever services I provide, and if they're looking for a mentor who will always be there, then Dhairya Decodes should be the one brand that they think of, or an institution that they think of, that they can go to it. So that's the aim, that I can help as many people as possible. Channels can be multiple, ways will be multiple. We'll do a lot of things. A lot of things are coming up, but the end goal will be to reach out to maximum people and help out as many people as possible.
Great. And you are already doing a lot of stuff. So yeah, on that note, I would like to end this what can I say, podcast, interview, whatever it is. I don't know what I'm doing. I just have some random people on my, which are really big names in the industry, and they're both national, international. I don't know what I'm doing all of this, but yeah, it's people love this. People always approach me, hey bhaiya, isko bulao. So yeah, that's the stuff.
Great, amazing. And thank you so much for having me, Jasmeet. It's been an amazing conversation. I think I just had a general conversation with you. Podcast interview is fine. But yeah, it was amazing. Thank you.
Okay, Dhairya.
Have a good day. Bye. Yeah.
Same to you. Bye-bye. You are very busy today, so yeah, all the best for all your talks and stuff like that. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.